Hey everyone, welcome. Individuality, spirituality, non-duality. Again, what we're doing in these videos is that we are showcasing all of these different paths to that one end. And that way we see the mountain from these different faces. We can draw the different concepts that help us pierce the veil and self-realize. This is extremely obvious. Individuality. The separate self that is egoic is contracted. It's suffering because it's seeking happiness outside, while the well of honey is underneath of the rock. It's the parable of the prodigal son going outwards and hitting a breaking point and then turning inwards to the investigation of the observer, of the witness, of the experiencer, of the I am-ness, the recognition of the kingdom of God within. So that contracted egoic separate entity of the individual ends up like a sugar cube dissolving. It relaxes, it releases, it expands. And in the analogy of the sugar cube, it dissolves into the oceanic consciousness. That contracted egoic mind dissolves into oceanic I am-ness. The infinitude of awareness that is eternally being colored by experience. The contracted egoic separate entity realizes the oceanicness and the eternity of that capital S self, of the I am-ness that is being eternally colored by experience. The individuality pierces the veil in that second step of spirituality with seeking and finding that it is the blank sheet of paper that is eternally being colored by words. It recognizes that it is the oceanicness that is eternal, that is constantly, never-endingly being colored by the waves. The waves are the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, the beliefs, the objects, the experiences. And that contracted egoic separate entity is completely lost in those. Now, the juxtaposition as the spiritual seeker pierces the veil and finds that diamond necklace already around their neck, that well of honey under the rock, that they create that juxtaposition and they begin living in the I am-ness. They begin living in the infinite consciousness and that infinite awareness that is being colored by the waves, by the words, or by the clouds. You are the sky. You are the ocean. You are the blank paper. Or in the modern example, you are the blank phone screen. And the blank phone screen is constantly being colored by applications, by messages, by emails, by phone calls, by calendar events. So in essence, individuality to spirituality is like the contracted egoic sugar cube of the separate self dissolves, relaxes, releases, expands as it dissolves into that oceanic infinitude of awareness and consciousness and I am-ness. And that's the spirituality. That's the seeking, that's the finding, and that's the piercing of the veil to self-realization or God realization. So usually what happens is that there is some sort of a tendency for there to be excellent. So God realization, self-realization, excellent. Actually, there's more. There's more to discern. There's more subtlety. To be the oceanicness and to recognize the perfect crest of every single wave. To live exactly in the pure, perfect, indescribable nowness. This. Simply this. Happening. And to ride. Like the world's best surfers who ride on the crest. And do it from the I am-ness, from the knowingness of the infinitude, of the eternity. Not from the contracted, separate self that is egoic, that is a finite biological creature. Bleh. What a miserable life, the contracted, separate entity, the biological creature that's finite, that's seeking happiness externally, only gets 1 minute of bliss per day. You have a 24/7 well of honey that is under the rock of bliss and peace. The well of straight bliss and peace. Pierce the veil, self-realize. So the next layers of subtlety, the next layers of surrender expose an even more subtle and even more formless and even more agentless and attributeless absolute of the non-dual perfection that this is. There's a rejection of the observer. There's a rejection of the I amness. Once you gain a tremendous amount of subtlety to the very, very most subtle I amness, there's a transcendence of even the I am observer or awareness to a place that is completely agentless. Also expressed as metaphysical zero. Whereas spirituality is a lot about oneness and a lot about unity. The metaphysical zero is that agentless, attributeless, indescribable perfection. And this is on a scale from the gross of the individuality, the separate self that believes it's a physical, biological creature, and you gain a lot of subtlety when you even begin being a seeker and piercing the veil and creating that juxtaposition, becoming the observer, the witness, the infinite I amness that is being eternally colored by experience. So much subtlety. Completely shattering the illusion of fear and the illusion of death, the illusion of separation, completely shattering those. So massive amount of subtlety, massive amount of peace and bliss, completely causeless joy, completely imperturbable peace. And then even more subtlety to recognize what is completely agentless, what is completely attributeless, what is a metaphysical zero. simply that is. It just is. It is perfect. It is indescribably perfect. All of these creation designs are absolutely perfect. And this is where the idea of there's nothing to do, there's nothing to seek, everything is already indescribably perfect comes from. And that's why simultaneity is key. A true level of simultaneity is able to simultaneously be the indescribable perfection while also recognizing that when they are getting a bottle of water from a convenience store, that they are not the level of complete indescribable perfection where they can't even engage with the cashier there to purchase their bottle of water. So it's the ability to dynamically, simultaneously ebb and flow across all of these layers. The non-dual, the spiritual, the individual, and to deal with all of the 8 billion journeys of piercing the veil and finding, because all of the different expressions are at different levels of piercing that veil. Of self-realizing, of the God realization, of the well of honey that is under the rock, of the diamond necklace that is already around our necks, of the indescribable perfection that is simply this. Crest after crest after crest of surf. This, the just the awe for this.